Hi, welcome to this week's episode of Comic Reviews. I'm a fuck up. I always forget about this weird audio issue that happens when I stream sometimes. I gotta remember to mute my computer because for some reason it broadcasts the audio coming out of my computer. So now that you guys can hear me and I can start the video in post from here, so that's fine. Let's talk about what we'll be discussing this week. We'll be beginning with Renato Jones, number 5. Renato Jones Freelancer, number 5. Mystik U, number 1. Supersons Annual, number 1. Aquaman Annual, number 1. Venom, number 158. Batman Annual, number 2. And Batman Arkham 100-page spectacular one-shot. Always gotta be thankful for the live commentators for making me not be such a fuck up. You are the true American heroes. Anyway, as I was saying, wouldn't normally have a lot to talk about this week, but annuals are happening, so we get a bunch of annuals from books that otherwise wouldn't be coming out. Anyway, we're beginning with Renato Jones, Freelancer, number 5. So I like this double page spread for the cover. There's a price for everything is a really good point that this book is trying to it's interesting because it's both confirming it and subverting the usual meaning for those things. So it's nice. So the last issue ended on a bit of a cliffhanger with literal nukes flying through the air and Renato trying to infiltrate the White House and like having to deal with an army of fascist bastards. And this issue picks up right on that. Renato has killed all the fascists off screen. The fight against the army of fascists has happened off panel on two fronts. And Renato is in the middle of fighting the president of the United States, who is the villain at this point. Renato is like consumed by him, and only through sheer luck does he survive because Bliss, the daughter of the president and Renato's love, shoots her father in the head with a high caliber shotgun. And that kills him. Renato's able to escape, and then they both go to try to stop the nuclear missiles. Bliss reveals that she is also was trained by Church, Renato's Alfred, for lack of a better term. And yet she has a different vision to kind of complete her father's plan, but with her and Renato on top. And she tries to seduce him and all this stuff, and he says he can't do that, so she betrays him, but then the last second, she is shot dead, and Renato is able to save the day and start a family of his own. Leaving us with this image of Renato Jones planning to go off into the world and deal with the ones from all over the globe. So again, Kyle Andrews does just a lot of really ugly fucking art in the best possible way. Just, I love this gore. It's really, really neat to see the flaming dollar signs and stuff like that. Any book that opens with just an army of dead fascists, I am down. Give that your fucking armband, you bastard. So, something else I'm noticing is that Kaare seems to really enjoy doing like some big flashy detail lost kind of art with the use of like light and explosions and stuff like that. He's a big fan of just kind of getting the sense of something being overwhelmed by a source of energy, and this is like that's how the fourth issue opened up with the bomb. This issue also opens with a bomb. There's always a difference between the bomb, capital B, capital T, and a bomb. And then we switch to black and white with splashes of red, and it's a really cool, gritty look, and it really helps cover some of the themes that I was talking about. Again, everything has a price. There's a price for everything. Like Renato looks like he's giving up his life to try to fight against this bad guy, and in the end, he does have to give something up. He had basically spent his whole life imagining getting to be with Bliss. He imagined that he could save her from the life and everything, and then in the end, she has to die in order for Renato to live, and in order for good to triumph. And actually, she doesn't die. I shouldn't say that. She's she's paralyzed from the neck down and put into an irreversible coma. So she's left with all this money and just on life support, potentially forever, which is really fascinating. Obviously, with the implication that this will continue on to a third season, that leaves potential for her to become a villain later on, which I think could be really, really interesting, particularly with the healthcare debate raging the way it has in recent months. The disparity, yeah, that's the right word, of care between people is a pretty good indicator. It seems like a really good road for Kyle Andrews to take with this. Even though he says Renato's going around the world, but that could be really anything. You could still work that in with this somehow, or have her be a secret reveal villain or something. Again, I really, really enjoy Care's ability to show just gruesome, grotesque, disgusting art. What the president turns himself into, and it's just giant, gaping, mauling asshole that just consumes everything, I think is just the perfect level of commentary on Donald Trump. Which maybe I'm reading too much into it, who knows. A lot of this going on. Something I didn't notice until right now, there's no ads in this, no fake ads or anything. This is completely dedicated to just full pages, and that's really cool. But I like this big red page as Renato's been consumed. Gritty Child says, it looks like if Frank Miller started drawing like H.P. Lovecraft. I could dig that. So, there's also a lot of just... I love silhouettes, personally. Just anything that uses silhouettes in black and white is really cool for me. So, this image we get of Bliss and Renato as she's trying to seduce him and convince him to just let one nuke go off so that they can, join me so we can rule the world. But she's doing it in such... It's really cool to see just the way it's handled. We'll own this country, Renato, not by some rig election or foreign collusion. We'll simply own it because we can pay. And once we've bought the greatest democracy on the planet, the rest will follow, and all for the cost of one tiny nuclear warhead. Money well spent. Let's fuck each other's brains out while the world burns. Man, that does sound appealing. But I really love the silhouette there. It's a neat touch to have her nails also catch the light, the white there. That's really neat. And it's just this, imposing, scary, stark, gray and white abstraction of the bombs. That's really, really cool. Yeah, I really like this. This is really cool as we get kind of some aftermath stuff, and the panel breaks down into the heartbeat monitor thing. That's neat. And we get the explanation of what's happening to Bliss. I really like what Renato has to say is after he's like, had his condition explained to her. She doesn't have anyone, not anymore, but don't worry about expenses. All Bliss has left is the money. And then we just get 3 panels as she smiles in her sleep. I'm like, wow, that's... Anyway, though, so Renato gets to make a family with the woman who he saved from the boat in, wait, was it the boat? Yeah, right? I think so. I can't even remember now. The woman who he saved and had living with him, from the first season. I need to go back and reread the entirety of this, all 10 issues now, because it's a very, heavily layered story. Like, everything kind of informs itself, and so it's hard to remember all the particular details, but this will definitely read really, really well in trade. Which is, I don't know, I'm a little iffy on it. It's good that it's telling a complete story and everything, obviously. When you're gonna do something that's meant for trade, I feel like you should just, make it for a trade, and frankly, the ads aren't meant for trade, so one of the things I love the most about this book is the ads. The fake ads, rather. But anyway, let's go ahead and move on to Mystik U, number 1. And I did not know this book, was going to exist or anything. I literally heard about it on Monday night. I'm like, oh shit, Zatanna, I'm down. So the premise for this is not complicated. Hogwarts meets X-Men in the DC universe. There you go. Kids with magical powers going to a school together to learn how to control those powers, but with big super heroic threats in the DC universe. What's neat about this is it is a retcon, because it wants Zatanna to be a student there. And, we've already seen Zatanna as an adult in the current Rebirth continuity. So what this does is it opens with some kind of big cataclysmic event, as you do. And it deals with just, oh shit, the world is basically ended, and all the magic users, the A-list of magic users in the DC universe have completely failed to stop this threat. But Zatanna lends her power to another magic user so that a spell could be cast to send everyone back in time and prepare for the threat better. So we go 7 years back in time to when Zatanna's still a teenager, and we're going to just, try to train her and all the other magic users and find out who the Malevolence is. And that's the big mystery threat thing. So let's talk about the strengths of this book, because we got Zatanna going to school with, June Moon / the Enchantress and other, I'm not sure who, I'm not sure which characters, if they are pre-existing characters, these all are. We got a number of people though. There's a number of characters, and I can't remember all their names off the, Rebqa, Rebqa, I can't remember this character's name. Rebqa, there's a lot of characters, but the introduction of June Moon makes me think that they all have to be pre-existing characters. I guess my thing with it is, okay, so I really like the premise of, alright, let's just say fuck it and be completely unapologetic about it and just do Hogwarts in the DC universe. Just give DC Universe an X-Men of its own, where it's a bunch of, you know, kids with powers going to school. And we'll do it in magic, so it's not too much of a ripoff. But it becomes a ripoff of Hogwarts instead. That part is completely, like, it's so obvious, right? You can't really get away from it. So I really like the premise, though. I think that's a neat premise. I don't love the idea of making Zatanna a kid. Part of me would just, like, want her to be a teacher. Like, how cool would it have been? Like, I could really dig this premise if Zatanna had just, like, gone to other magic users, Dr. Fate, the other characters, and said, hey, there's a lot of kids out there with magical powers now, and as these threats get bigger and bigger, they're running out there to try to help and use their powers, but they don't have enough of an understanding, so they're getting themselves hurt in these apocalyptic events. We need to train kids how to use their magic. And she was a teacher. That would be a lot better and not quite as kooky premise as this. But it's whatever. I'm not gonna rewrite the thing. So they send Zatanna back in time, and so we're retconning this into her origin. Fine, it's whatever. The problem I have with this, it is really, really drastic. Like, the big complaint a lot of people have made with DC Rebirth is not enough is getting done issue to issue. This has too much happening in one issue. Like, there's this moment right at the beginning that weirds the hell out of me. As we go back in time, the first chapter where Zatanna, like, discovers her magical powers and then gets to go to Mystic U. Here's the scene. Zatanna's doing a stage act with her father. She says some magic words and accidentally opens up a gateway to hell, and her father has to run in and try to stop it in the middle of an act on a stage. That happens in 2 pages. The next page, Zatanna runs off stage to go get help and is told, no, your father will get out of this, he'll be fine. Now come to this school because we have to get your powers under control. In the next page. And then we begin Zatanna's admission to Mystic U. And then she starts meeting her friends, and then she starts getting introduced to the classes and what that'll be like, and then she starts getting ready for bed. On what level would your father's gotten out of tougher scrapes than this? On what level is that possibly going to help a kid be like, oh, okay, fine, that's cool. She literally just sent her dad to hell, and we have no resolution for that whatsoever before she starts jumping into just, yeah, I'll go to classes, I'll hang out with my friends and meet new people and stuff. Oh, I'm kind of tired. I want to go to bed. Oh, but there's a scavenger hunt. Oh, well, I guess I could do that. I just sent my father straight to hell, and he's, you know, not back. Why would you do that? And then, like, Zatar's disappearance in hell does not get resolved in the slightest in this issue. Like, she just goes off and starts having a scavenger hunt, and then there's a big blob monster, and they keep interacting and seeing the blob monster, and they have to figure out what to do about that, and everyone's convinced it's an evil monster, and then at the end it turns out, oh, it's not a monster, it's just misunderstood, and it gets to be a member of the class. Okay, fine, that's cool. I'm totally on board with that. That's fine. Her father is in hell. And we don't get a letter. We don't get any kind of indication he got the fuck out of there. He's dead for all intents and purposes. And Zatanna is just like, oh, well, I guess I'll go to school. That's not okay. That is rushed. And that is inappropriate. And, like, don't get me wrong. You can kill Zatar. I have no fucking interest in Zatar whatsoever. Zatanna's my bae, right? But, like, I need her to care about Zatar. I need Zatanna to have some interest in Zatar. And for him to just out of there is a problem. And it's distracting to the reader. I also think, like, I don't know a ton about this author, so I don't want to put my foot in my mouth. But I did a little bit of reading up on her, and it appears that the author, whose name escapes me, I will look at the credits real quick, Alisa Kwitney, 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 is my guess there. From what I could gather, she writes both comics and novels. Reading this, I was surprised that she's written a comic before. This was, like, it's not bad. It's not like the last thing I read comic book wise by a novelist was Torchwood, and it is nowhere near as jumbled and messy as that thing was. But this is definitely not this is not like something that I feel she has a strong grasp on. Just the form itself, I feel like she is pretty messy here. Because again, Zatar just disappearing. You know, my trick that I love to do is to just show you guys panels with, you know, paragraphs of word balloons. And when it's characters giving a speech or something, or trying to, you know, like make a moral or ethical point, or doing, you know, a grandstand, I'm usually fine with that. But, like, this is just needless exposition dialogue. And not all of it's needless, but a lot of it's exposition dialogue, and a lot of it just doesn't need to be in here like this. So this is the scene after Zatanna runs away from the stage. Oh my god, Zatanna? Okay, so that had to be some kind of new trick, only it went wrong. Where's the stage manager? Okay, take a deep breath. I need you to calm down and listen to me. Lady, I don't know who you are, but you need to get out of my way. My dad's in some kind of trouble here, and I don't know what to do. But your father does. I know this all. I know this is all new and scary, but you have to trust me. I've known your father for years, and he's gotten out of far worse pickles than this one. Pickle? You call this a pickle? A bunch of demon things popped out of thin air and disappeared with my dad. Oh god, none of this makes any sense. I'm losing my mind. No, you're not. You've just come into your powers, Zatanna. You have an incredible gift, and you're going to do amazing things with it once you learn control. This isn't a trick. Only one way to find out. Follow me. So besides just being very abrupt, a lot of the dialogue in that can just be trimmed. You know, I can take a pencil and just scratch out like a good section. This top word balloon of Zatanna's, completely useless. Oh god, none of this makes any sense. I'm losing my mind. That's all you need there. No, you're not. You've just come into your powers, Zatanna. You have an incredible gift, and you're going to do amazing things with it. That's needless dialogue. Once you learn control. No, you're not. No, you're not. You've just come into your powers, Zatanna. You're going to do amazing things with it once you learn control. And, like, that's not a problem in a novel. Dialogue like that isn't a problem in a novel, but you're just spending so much time on a single panel. It takes a lot to read there. And there's stuff like that all over the book. There's a lot of dialogue in this book, And then this does the thing that I do not like. I've got to invent a term for this. I guess I'll call this juggling perspective, or not juggling perspective, juggling dialogue / monologue, wherein we have dialogue running concurrent with monologue, running concurrent with dialogue. And this page is a really terrific example of that, where we have a trick comic books use all the time is to have this page, is to have narration boxes, which we have 3 of on this page, running beside dialogue balloons, which we have a number of on this page. Here's where this is a mistake, all right? The narration, I keep getting these reversed. The narration is a carryover from the speech being given on this page. And that's a mistake in and of itself, to cut away from the context of the speech to outside of the school again. But the carryover speech is then being paired with dialogue between 2 parents and their son, and another parent and her daughter. So we're just like, and another parent and her daughter and her mom and someone who her mom is on the phone with. We don't hear the conversation that the mom is having on the other end of the phone, but part of it is that she is having a conversation on the phone. So this is that's just really, really sloppy. Like the conversation on the phone part, that doesn't need to be there. That, like, it might inform the character, but it confuses the reader. The stuff between the families is fine, but you don't go from one family to another. It's just a problem, because, like, okay, we got this first panel up here, and we've got dialogue. God damn it, I'm so bad at this. Dyslexia, help me. We've got dialogue in these 2 balloons between the Indian family, and then we've got dialogue that the mother is having on the phone, as we're introduced to both families at the same time, and then the narration continues, and then we get dialogue of both families at the same time again, and then the narration continues, and then we get dialogue of just the one family. Oh, nope. Then we get dialogue of Zatanna thrown in there, and then we get a conclusion for the second family. That's just really sloppy. You're asking your reader to follow 3 different lines of conversation at once, and honestly, the only important one's the narration. I really, really feel like whoever the editor is on this book, Alex Antone, Antone, needs to do a better job of policing these scripts, because just too much. There's way too much going on here. You're pulling 3 directions at once, and that's not good. Overall, though, I don't want to give the wrong impression. It's not that I didn't like this, it's that I had really big problems with something that I did overall enjoy. This is a neat, fun premise. I like the idea. I'm just a little muddied on the execution. One thing I do like, though, is the characters. We have Enchantress here, and she's kind of a edgy goth teen chick, and I like that. That's a fun direction to go in with Enchantress, as opposed to being, like, literally taken over, to have June Moon literally be taken over by the Enchantress. When she feels like using magic, she dresses up like the Enchantress and does her hair and the eyes and all that stuff. That's a fun idea. And, like, they allude to the idea that, she might actually be getting possessed by this Enchantress character. And when I began this, Jake Carlson, who's in the chat, mentioned that, the villain Malevolence is going to be the Enchantress. It's going to end up being Enchantress. I mean, maybe. I would not be surprised if that happens. But honestly, with the number of characters here that are original, and with characters that are like, there's another character who's like Felix Faust's son. It is entirely possible Enchantress is here as a misdirect. You don't necessarily have to have Enchantress be the end up being the villain. I would not be surprised if she is a misdirect, though. Anyway, one thing I do like about just how Enchantress is being written here is she's like kind of like she's a horny kid. There's really no other way to put it. She takes she's on this scavenger hunt with this kid, with this guy that she just met, and she kind of takes him to a graveyard and wants to start making out, and that goes kind of wrong for her given the ruby this guy has. It lashes out in his defense because it doesn't trust her. And then later on, she has the hots for him, I guess. Later on, the school's on lockdown because of Big Uli Monster, and she locks Zatanna and... God, I cannot remember this other character's name. She locks her roommates, including Zatanna, out of her room, and I really like that there's a sock on the door, and she's just in there with this kid, making out with him. That's legitimate teenageriness. And I respect the ability to actually show that and have it be, somewhat believable. In a book about magical teenagers. I know. No, but just in all honesty, I really, really do appreciate that. Like, I know I grew up reading Harry Potter, and they got into relationship stuff a bit in Harry Potter. It was a decent chunk of the later books, but it felt like I was reading an adult's version of what's appropriate for teenagers to be doing, and characters that were obviously destined to be together, as opposed to what teenagers are actually like. I remember in one of the books, Ron and Harry run up to go tell Hermione something, and because they're boys, running up the girls' staircase makes them slide. It turns the stairs into a slide, and so they're not able to go up there. And that's pretty funny. And then they're like, but Hermione was able to come up to the boys' dormitory, and they go, girls are just more trustworthy. That was kind of funny. That was like a little wink, wink, nudge, nudge kind of moment. But I legit did not understand why stuff like that wasn't happening more often. And it certainly did seem to be the case more kind of in the background in the movies, particularly the end credits, The Prisoner of Azkaban, if you catch my drift. But, it never quite felt like it was very dominant. It didn't feel like that was a big part of their characters. And I remember high school and middle school quite well. Everybody talked about sex. That was just the case. Everybody talked about sex. So I thought that was, it was good characterization, and it was believable characterization, which I really appreciated. So this definitely has stuff there to like, and that's what I appreciate about it. But it does need a lot of work on the form, I think. Art-wise, I like the artist on this. Who's drawn? Mike Norton. He's doing a good job. He's delivering a lot of good work here. Things look cool. Facial expressions are clear and interesting. I'm getting a great sense of just the world, the dynamic. Like, that's really, really cool. In the beginning, I love some of the double pages. The double pages are really, really cool. His monster design is very, very, it's simultaneously unique but familiar. Like, it's taking familiar tropes and then really, really going places with them, which I really like for some of the monster and demon work. And that's very appreciated. Like, it's that perfect level of you're immediately able to identify it, but it's not cliche. It's not typical. It's not the exact way you draw those things. It's got a good sense of just how things should look. So you're able to identify it, but it's still an imaginative take, which I like. Here's our first image of Mystik U, which is really cool. Like, I like all the fairies around Enchantress. I like the unicorn, the statue in the middle of the founders, being Puritans. That's a really cool detail. I really, really appreciate this. This is neat. I also like that some of the faculty is non-human. That's really, really good stuff. Like, or not even faculty. Some of the faculty and students are non-human, which is great. Like, it always got weird to me why, like, things like Harry Potter didn't do that. Why, okay, so Hagrid was half giant, and I think a ghost taught the history of magic class, or history of Hogwarts class. Which would make sense. But anyway, like, one of the students who's like a senior or something or a sophomore maybe, is a like troll-looking monster. That's really cool. I loved this cameo that we had happen here. I gotta find it first. It's towards the end, actually. I thought this was just the best idea ever, and I am so down. Okay, you ready? You ready? Teaching Magical Ethics 101 is Frankenstein's monster. That's awesome. That's a really cool move. There's some neat stuff with divination and cards, and like the monster of this first issue is now joined the group, which is neat. I like where we're going with the premise. I really need the form to pick up. The form, the use of the comic needs to catch up a little bit, because it's a little off. There's really no way around it. It is just not quite there. I feel like the premise is brilliant, but need to remember to write in comic book, not novel. So you gotta trim the fat, gotta just know what to do better, and also gotta really, really pick up the emotional attachments, and not, because it just makes Zatanna seem like a jerk. It's just, I may have just killed my father. Oh well, that sucks. All right. Been going for a while already, and I'm only 2 books down. This is not a good sign. Let's go ahead and move along to Supersons Annual number 1. So I'm always in love with this book, and when I saw this cover, I was so friggin' hype. This is an absolutely fantastic cover. Unfortunately, it has nothing to do with the actual premise of the book. Because when you see this cover, you think, alright, the boys are going to have to deal with the dogs in some way, shape, or form. Kinda. The thing about this book that is amazing is it's Damian and John Kent hanging out. It is Superboy and Robin hanging out, and that's adorable. And they play off each other really well. Peter J. Tomasi does a great job having these characters interact with one another. The problem is, we get the initial premise that someone is stealing dogs in Gotham for some unknown nefarious purpose. We get a brief scene of the boys stopping some bank robbers. which is cool. It's fun action. The boys are fun together. Peter J. Tomasi definitely has a great voice for these characters. John goes home, and Crypto can read and sees what John's next case is going to be, which is dog nappings, and that very much troubles Crypto. So he goes and gets, or goes to the the Wayne Manor and collects the other super pets, starting with Titus. Like we got Ace and Titus next to each other. That's adorable. Gets the other super pets, starting with Titus, and goes to Detective Chimp, and they go off on an adventure together and solve who's kidnapping the other dogs. There's this scene, it's pretty typical team up book, really, where you got the characters who don't like each other, so they have to have a quick fight, but then it's interrupted by the level-headed leader of the team. It's just a lot of back and forth with that. They all team up, though. They save the day, and then at the end, Damien calls John over and tells him that he has to deal with what the dogs did and get all the other dogs that were saved back to their respective homes. That's not a bad book. That's not a bad premise. I still had fun reading it. But when I saw this cover, I so was hoping that we were going to have something with literally this scene happening in it. And it feels like that is the ending of this book. I want to see the story after this. I don't really care about this story. Because the boys aren't in it. It's not a super... Like, it ends with Crypto and Titus. Again, Titus can apparently read, and that's weird. Titus can apparently communicate, and that's strange, but whatever. It ends with Crypto and Titus, like, doing a fist bump and saying Super Pets, and it really is. It's a Super Pets book. And I'd probably read that too, and I would probably enjoy that. But I want to read Damien and John. And it's not Damien and John. And that was kind of disappointing. Though I will still say, I showed this cover to people at work today, because I was just so, like, as soon as I saw it, I'm like, oh my god, yes! And maybe I just got overhyped. Maybe the cover artist did too good a job who did cover on this book. Jorge Jimenez and Alejandro Sanchez did the covers. I'm assuming this one's by Jimenez. Yeah, Jorge Jimenez. He did an amazing job on the cover. I instantly wanted to read this. But, man, I was so let down by the story in comparison. Anything to say about the art? Not a ton, really. The writer, or the artist, the internal artist, did I lose a page? No. The internal artist, Paul Pelletier, did a good job with, just animal facial expressions. But oh. All right. Good, move on to Aquaman Annual number 1. What Dreams May Come. So, Alan Moore created the Black Mercy. It's a plant that attaches to superheroes and makes them have trippy dreams and have writers make you sad. That is the function of the Black Mercy. So this Aquaman story, Aquaman and Mira are making plans to build a city that will be just a gigantic tower that'll be from the very bottom of the ocean all the way to a mile above the air, above the surface. And it'll be a tower city where surface dwellers and Atlanteans can live together in peace. But as they're thinking of and planning for this, they get attacked by the Black Mercy underwater. And so the issue is about them, like, just having the Black Mercy fantasy. They have their perfect world. They have a child that, like, both of them love. Something happens as they get stirred out of the dream. The Justice League is there as, like, old people. Blah, 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 blah. In the end, they have to give up on the dream of the Black Mercy and be sad because their child didn't ever actually exist. Okay. That's the entire story. Just like I don't know, it's what's going on in the comments. Kuma Ranger says, did reading this book felt like you were ripping your own arm off? No, it's not nearly that bad. Deadpoolzilla is also here in the comments. Says, I could get the same story from the Superman one. That's the thing, right? It is literally the same story. And I mean, it's the same story that Alan Moore wrote. What about that sounds like a good idea to you? Like, I do not like Alan Moore as a person. He is, of course, a great writer, but I do not like Alan Moore. So, nothing Alan Moore is sacred to me. But what about, oh, hey, Alan Moore created this story. I'm going to do the same thing, but with Aquaman. What would make you think that's a good idea? It's not like it's poorly done. It's just, in comparison to Alan Moore, it is not Alan Moore done well. Like, I don't know what else to really say about the story. The art's kind of neat. I like some of the imagery of, like, just things, you know, like, this is a neat idea for Hal Jordan, where he's got a construct arm. And, like, you can see it, like, even, it's not just, like, okay, it's under the jacket, he's got a construct arm. It even goes, like, up around the neck. Like, that's a cool little touch. I'm not sure why Hal Jordan doesn't get into the Green Lantern costume when he fights, but whatever. There's just some cool stuff here and there, and I like it. There's some other stuff where I'm like, that looks weird. The artist here has a hard time with facial expressions, I'll tell you that much. What's the artist's name before I show you this? Max, Fiumara? Fiumara? You ready for some nightmare fuel? This child's face. Hey, you guys! Right? I'm not the only one seeing that, right? That just looks weird. It's like, I don't think the kid's supposed to be, like, not normal or whatever, but it just looks odd. Like, his eyes look like they're bulging out of his head. That's an awkwardly drawn face. Everyone's Jacob Carlson's the comment. My ears. Rip headphones. But like, that just looks awkward. Some of the art, like, it's got cool designs, but it doesn't look very well drawn at times. I don't know. Maybe he's trying to indicate to us that the kid's face isn't, that like the kid isn't real or something. But I don't know. It just looks off to me. And like everything about this kid looks weird. Maybe I'm being a little mean. Maybe the artist is trying to give you clues to indicate that something's not right about this kid. Because like, look at his wrists. That just looks off. It just doesn't look real. And then it's not like the artist doesn't have a grasp on how to draw people. Because if you look like Aquaman and Mira hung up in the Black Mercy, that looks pretty cool. That looks like really, really well done. Like that's a neat image. But the kid, oof, that's. I'll be fair. I will say that it was the intention of the artist to draw the kid looking not right. And then there's other stuff, so I guess you're supposed to be giving hints that it's a Black Mercy story, but still, just, again, why would you tell the Black Mercy story with Aquaman? What about that would seem like a good idea to you? Yeah. Batman shows up and fights Aquaman underwater, which just does not seem like a very Batman thing to do. But it's okay, because it's Night Black Mercy Batman, so whatever. Yeah, I just did not care for this, though. This is pretty not good. This is the definition of forgettable. Whew. Let's go ahead and go on to Venom, number 158. Ian, you're still reading this? No, I'm not. I'm not still reading this. Especially with the way this ends. Oh, finally, Lee is let out of prison and earns his freedom. Venom saved the dinosaur people, but Lee's let out of prison. So finally, we'll be getting back to the story we actually care about. Last words on the last page. To be continued in Venom Inc. No, I'm not buying another book for a disappointing ass story. I don't know what the fuck you're doing, but you're crazy if you think I'm gonna, just subsist on this underground dinosaur cult thing and then go to another book for you. God, is anyone enjoying this book right now? Yeah, everyone's in the comments like, I thought you dropped it, dude. And like, I said I would drop it if this story arc ended in a really disappointing way. And it did. It did. It made me think I was going to get what I was waiting for, but I'm not getting it. No, I'm getting a spin-off book. So I've got to buy 2 books? Hell no. Hell no. Man, like, you don't understand. For me to want to buy a spin-off book just to continue your story, you can't just be getting by. You have to be killing it. Like, you don't have to be Tom King good, but you don't have to be Tom King or Margaret Bennett good. You gotta be like Peter J. Tomasi on Supersons good, where it's like, it's not like groundbreaking or anything, but it's really fun. Like, I would buy the Peter J. Tomasi Damien book right now, in an instant. He knows what he's doing. I would get that. I'd buy the Peter J. Tomasi John Kent Superboy book in an instant right now, as a spin-off of Supersons. But Venom Inc., when Venom's been trash since the renumbering? No. Bye. See ya. Goodbye. I should say a little bit more about it than that, though. So yeah, Craven's defeated, dinosaur people safe, Venom's back, Lee Price is released from prison. That's the story, and it's disappointing. The art is pretty cool. I like this. It's a cool Venom face. I like that it's juxtaposed with Lee's face. I'm not sure if that's on purpose, but it's a cool little idea. Craven's a crazy bastard, and it's kind of fun to see him get his ass kicked. That's it. Alright, I'm good. I just don't care. That's not a good book. That is the definition of a not good book. I'm building anticipation. Is the anticipation built up enough now? Good. Batman Annual number 2. Oh, Tom King. I hate you, Tom King. I hate you with the burning passion of 1,000 suns, Tom King. Tom King. What? Tom King, why must you make me cry? What have I done to hurt you, Tom King? What have I done to hurt you where you feel the need to do this to me? Like, that's not okay, dude. I ain't done shit to you but buy your amazing comic books, okay? So just knock it off with all the emotions, alright? I'm not paying, what is this, $5 to get all the feels right now, alright? I'm not about that life. No, this is brilliant. This is great. It's everything I love about Tom King. It's a really basic premise. It's really fun ideas. It's really cool moments, and it all gets wrapped together with a really, really great point and tells a very human story. With minimalist dialogue. Gotta love Tom King's very minimalist dialogue. David Mamet is the name that I go to in my head a lot. The playwright. Tom King's a lot more minimalist than that, but just very direct. Alright, so in this story, we get Lee Weeks is back. He did the Batman Elmer Fudd story, so it's really cool to see him back. In this story, we get the early interactions between Batman and Catwoman in this Rebirth continuity, which is really cool. And then we get their life later on once they got married and grew old together. And we get the death of Batman. We get the death of Batman. Get the death of Batman. So Batman grows old, and due to his injuries, he's not gonna live long. He gets some kind of diagnosis that's really vague, and he has to kind of prepare Selina for the fact that he's gonna die, and he dies one day and leaves her a note that is just it's just sad. It's just too many feelings. So I really like this early days interactions between Batman and Catwoman, wherein Catwoman seems to know who Bruce Wayne is and is continually breaking into Wayne Manor, into the Batcave, and stealing things. So she steals the Batmobile and crashes it into Porky's. This was a great reference to the Batman Elmer Fudd story. Batman Elmer Fudd is now in continuity. Congratulations. She crashes the car into Porky's and leaves Batman with a little mouse. She breaks into Wayne Manor when Bruce is out of costume and escapes police so that Bruce can't chase her, because the police would see Bruce Wayne jumping out a window and leaves him a mouse. Ah, shit. Sometimes these books are too heavy. She breaks into the mansion again, finds Pearl, has a conversation with Batman, and disappears and leaves him a mouse. She confronts him again on top of Wayne Manor. Love this 2-page spread. Minimalist dialogue reflecting with minimalist art. Lee Weeks is a great fit for Tom King. Anyway, she escapes again and leaves him a mouse. Batman confronts her in her apartment, and they kiss, and this is the beginning of their love story, which we skip straight to the end of, as they grow old and die together. Or he dies with her. That's really sweet. I love that they call each other Bat and Cat till the very end. I love this ending scene where he's literally on his deathbed, surrounded by friends and family. She's there next to him and says, "Shh, shh, good night, Bat. I love you." Next day, she goes down to the Batcave, gets in the Batmobile, sits behind it, and finds a kitten with a note. "I love you too, Cat. From the first kiss to the last." Tom King, why you gotta do this to me? That's too much emotion, man. Man. It's just a really, really good Batman Catwoman story. And again, I'm of the opinion that Catwoman and Batman will not last. It will not be a thing. And I'm reasonably sure it's gonna not be a thing by the time Tom King's done. Like, I don't think he's gonna have them get married and then leave the book with them married. I think he will break them up in his run. There's an interesting moment that old Bruce says to Selina that I think is pretty telling of something we might get, of this being a possible future, where he says, somewhere out there, there's another Earth where I never got old, or married, or sick, or anything. I'm always alone, always the Batman. After, you understand, after I want you to find Barry, then you have him find that other me out there, and that fellow will take care of you. That's what you should do. Man. Like, that seems like a pretty clear indication that this marriage, like, can be a beautiful thing, but it's not going to last. So this is like kind of this is the Batman 666 continuity, where Batman gets to die happy and old. Like, just the same kind of thing. And it's still sad. I guess this is... Well, Helena Wayne shows up in this as Batwoman. So I assume this could technically be... What is that? Earth 2 continuity? Everyone in the comments cracked me up. Deadpoolzilla, help me! I'm feeling it! I can't get up! Oh, that's funny. Nathan Snyder, what's wrong with my eyes? What is this salty discharge? Oh. Wait, Tom King pulls a BoJack Horseman? You are telling me Tom King is pulling a BoJack Horseman? I don't know. I really don't know. Jake Carlson saying Bruce is dead on Earth 2. Yeah, I'm sure. I'm just saying, like, this could be a nod to that continuity. I don't know what New 52 did with Earth 2, so I won't say 2. Definitely that's what this could be, or that's definitely what this is, but it seems like that is a possibility. Lee Weeks does some really cool art. Like, it looks good, man. I like the look of Lee Weeks' stuff. It's a damn good book. Robert Emmett and Jake Carlson are talking about the boat versus the street. So I'm pretty sure they're both from different continuities. The street, one I think of at least, is Year One. The boat was probably the original Catwoman story. So with Bruce being so sure that it's the boat that they met on and not the street, I think Tom King's doing a weird continuity thing in order to explain or in order to cement the relationship in a way. I'm not entirely sure. I don't know like exactly where he's going with it. If it's gonna be some kind of weird cosmic thing. You gotta remember, Dr. Manhattan fucked shit up. Like that's just how it goes now. That is my ultimate go-to is Dr. Manhattan really fucked shit up. Guys, Bugs Bunny is in the DC universe, like just living in Smallville, and there's a bar where Elmer Fudd and Silver St. Cloud and Porky and Taz all just hang out as anthropomorphic or as human beings. Who knows? Maybe it's gonna be connected to the whole multiple lines of continuity thing to be the official explanation as to why they're having this disagreement. I don't really care because it does seem to be very thematically tied to just kind of their relationship in a lot of ways, wherein they can't agree on anything when it comes right down to it. I don't know. It'll be shall be intriguing to see where that all goes. Anyway, let's go ahead and move on to Trade Talk. So everyone that came live, thank you for coming live. I'll go to the point where I don't look at the comments, though. So hope you understand. That would have been pleasant to let out loud. So let me just drink some more soda so that won't happen again. All right. Hi, welcome to another episode of Trade Talk. This week we have Batman Arkham 100-page Spectacular. This is a one-shot from 2011 that collects a couple of short stories that had appeared as backups or just little additional things over the years in different comic books. I actually have one of these stories in a comic from a Secret Origins, Batman Secret Origins issue, where it just like kind of explained like backgrounds of all the different Batman villains. And it just had a short story about Arkham in the back, and this kind of collects a bunch of those. We got 4 writers on this. We got Denny O'Neil. Alan Grant does 2 of the stories. And then the final story is written by Paul Grist. So let's talk about the Denny O'Neil story first, which is a neat little flashback thing. Set in kind of the Old West in the beginning of Gotham. We have the guy who's like goes to Bloodhaven and is kind of shunned and pushed out because he's seen as, an abomination with no soul. I'm assuming due to his race. Because you have no soul, 'tis well known that none of your color, has something to do with his race. They assume he doesn't have a soul. So he's kicked out of Bloodhaven, but he's trying to build a church a little ways across the way from Bloodhaven. And he is approached by a doctor. This doctor tries to convince him that instead of a church, he should build an asylum, and they can send out for madmen from across the newly forming country in order to help them and build a community of understanding and respect. In the night, though, the man that harassed the builder in Bloodhaven is found dead outside the builder's quarters, and was the doctor that did it. And the doctor says, you're going to be the one that gets blamed for this after the interaction you had in town today. No one's not going to believe it's you. And unless you help me, I'm going to tell them it was. And so he's like, but I will help you bury the dead meat and tell no one, if you do as I wish. Your church will be a madhouse known as Gotham and populated by my mad brothers. What say you? And the guy agrees. So Gotham itself, not Arkham, Gotham itself is started by an insane man. Is a really, really, really good idea. It is started as an insane asylum, and it will be populated by the insane. That is so on point with Gotham. Who was it? Was it Geek for Fun? No, Geek Without Fear. Why do I screw that up? Alfie, fucking quit changing your Twitter handle. Did a poll or a question on Twitter, I want to say last week, where he's like, would you rather live in Metropolis or Gotham? And my thing has always been, you gotta be crazy to live in Gotham. You have to be just a little bit crazy to live in Gotham. And if you live in Gotham and you're not crazy, you haven't lived there long enough. Because you don't stay unless you're a little crazy, unless you're not stark raving mad, you're not incapable of being dealt with. You're just not all there because you don't have the survival instinct, which is to get the fuck out. That's kind of the mentality that Gotham has always had to me, and I've always seen it. And it's really, really cool that Denny O'Neil tells this story where it's like, yeah, you gotta be crazy to live in Gotham. Gotham was founded on insanity. Insanity and murder. Those are the roots, the pillars of Gotham. And then the other really, really cool part is this is all a story from a diary that Tim is reading. And Alfred tells him that one of the people mentioned in the diary is an ancestor of Bruce Wayne. So, is it the madman? Is it the architect? Or is it the slain man? And you don't get an answer. I really like that. This is why Denny O'Neil is a great Batman writer. It leaves you with these great lingering questions, and that's just a really, really cool story. So yeah, what do you think? Is the first Wayne of Gotham, is it a madman, or is it an architect, or is it the architect that built Gotham? Is it the madman that demanded it be a city for the insane, or was it a murdered man that the city was then built on the grave of? Really, really cool. The second story is called Tales of Madness, and is about a guard in Arkham that got separated with just himself and the prisoners after an incident. So the entire asylum went into lockdown, and the other guards were quickly killed off, and it was just this one guard left. And so the prisoners kind of get out, and they start looking for him, and they find him, and are trying to decide what to do with him. And they don't quite know. They don't quite know what they want to do. They all hate him. They all want to do something to him. They all want to kill him, but they can't decide which one gets to. So the Joker comes up with the great idea of, we'll each tell you a story about ourselves, and then you decide who gets to kill you, based on who's ever the scariest. And then we just get stories. So first, what's her name? Shit. I don't know. I don't know who this character is supposed to be. That's a problem. Black Batman villain? Black lady? Shaman and Vaz? Samantha and Vaz? V-O-Z? I don't know who that's supposed to be. Anyway, she tells the story about her abusive childhood and how she accidentally killed her brother, in a fit of rage. And then, Riddler tells a story about trying to commit a crime, but then getting, busted by Batman, and everyone decides it's a really awful story. Alan Grant does not write a great Riddler. And then Croc tells a story about feeding a tourist to a gator back in his wrestling days. And then Samantha, who I'm pretty sure is an Alan Grant character, given how much she appears in this book, with the 2 stories written by him. Samantha tells about how she was labeled a witch and burned at the stake, and swore to take vengeance on all the people who burned her, and she was sure that this guy is one of them, once she was resurrected. Then Killer Moth shows up, and Croc fights him briefly. Then Crane tells a story about a family that kind of went crazy, and they all killed each other in various ways. He made, like, the father made mom and dad afraid of their kids would... He made mom and dad afraid their kids would be run over by a truck, so they locked them in the house. He made the husband afraid his wife would leave him, so he chained her to the wardrobe. He made the wife afraid her husband would leave her, so she knocked him out with a vase and handcuffed him to her wrist. Yes, there were 2 puppies, and the devil made the cute, adorable little puppies go hungry, so they had to come find the only source of food, which was the chained up parents. That's a nice fucked up story. Then Joker tells his story about coating an entire crowd with acid, which is pretty messed up, and attempting to kill Batman and Robin with laughing gas. And so then they all ask him, alright, so which one of us told the scariest story? And they all kind of like move in, leering in on him, getting closer and closer. And he says, you're all scary, you all scared me. You all won. And then this ending is pretty intense. So they're like, oh, that's okay. They all carve out a piece, and the experience drives him crazy in doing that. That is good. That is so perfectly hopeless and scary and messed up. So like they all carve their names into them and section them off for which pieces they're going to take, since they all won. And the experience of being like tormented on the edge of that, being scared to that point, and then being, brutalized in that way, drove him crazy. And now he's in Arkham, and he is. I belong to them now. They call me the Jigsaw Man. One day they'll come back to claim me, and I'll be here at home, waiting. Just sends a shiver up you. Man, that's really good. It's so perfectly hopeless is my thing. I really, really enjoyed that story. The art is probably the biggest problem with it. It does this thing that a lot of anthology comics do, which I don't hate in premise, but I often find very distracting, and it switches art styles, and I really hate that. So, like, when they're all first released, we get just some really varying art styles. Like, look at Joker's face in that panel. That's so weird. And then it just, like, it changes so drastically throughout each character telling their story. Riddler's art style changes to complete Popeye cartoon, and it's so out of place. It is so entirely out of place and does not need to be there. I almost prefer Riddler wasn't in it. Crocs is fine, Samantha's fine. Those are both, like, nice and creepy looking. Killer Moth looks cool, all that stuff, and Joker's story is fine, Scarecrow's story is fine, but some of the art's just, it's wildly different, and I prefer just consistency. Anyway. Let's go ahead and go on to the next story, which is Scream If You Love Me. And this is another story written by Alan Grant, in which he is having someone brought to Arkham. This is a guy who apparently killed his wife and family with an axe, but won't admit that he did it. He keeps professing his innocence, and he's just being shoved around in Arkham and being initiated, as it were, and he's just being kind of driven crazy by the asylum. And what's really, really cool about this one is the narration is the asylum. It characterizes the asylum, and that's really, really cool. Like, I love this moment where it's morning and they go out to go get breakfast or whatever, and he just looks down the hallway and hears a scream from all the way down at the other end of the hallway. And then the narration says, "I like the screams at random intervals. Helps to concentrate the mind, don't you think?" And I love the idea that the asylum's just in the back, like, slowly coaxing and bringing this guy to become a part of itself. The asylum is the monster, and that's so perfect for an Arkham story. God, this is good. Anyway, the inmates kind of bully this guy into trying to sneak a knife to the Joker, and that gets him in trouble with Jeremiah, and that gets him kind of locked up in solitary. And then there's a whole thing about, the fact that he got caught with the knife. And so he gets, he got caught with the knife, so the prisoners get mad and they start a riot and use it as a chance to beat the shit out of him. And Jeremiah doesn't like that he got a riot started, blames it on this guy, and so he's calls him a troublemaker and says, "We need to give you some shock therapy to really work out these issues." And that kind of drives him completely over the edge. And I really, really love this 2-page spread. Is gorgeous and terrifying, and it's so bizarre and creepy, and it's just great. This is what he sees as he's being electroshocked. Jeremiah Arkham as a skeleton riding a skeleton horse. All the madmen marching out of Arkham into the streets in the night. "Do you see my visions, Rob? Do you see my dreams? 10,000 nights of madness, 10,000 more to come. I don't know what I'd do without my friends. The asylum makes you crazy. So Rob's gone completely off the deep end now after the electroshock. He is truly one of the inmates. And that's when his lawyer shows up with evidence that he did not kill his family and an immediate call for his release. But it's too late. He's gone over the edge and he's killed some fellow inmates. Writing on the wall in blood, I didn't do it. The asylum took a perfectly normal guy and turned him into a psychopath. And that's the terror of Arkham. Alan Grant, I was so disappointed by the Batman of Arkham story last week because Alan Grant writes a really good, knows how to write an Arkham story. He's got a really good voice for Arkham. Both those stories are two of my favorite Arkham stories. The Denny O'Neil story is really good at the beginning of this, but the reason to buy this is for those two Alan Grant stories, because those are some of the best stories about Arkham Asylum. That is right up there with Grant Morrison's Arkham Asylum Madness. If I had to list it, I'd go Arkham Asylum, or not Arkham Asylum Madness. I'd go Grant Morrison's Arkham Asylum, Arkham Reborn, those two Alan Grant stories, Arkham Asylum Living Hell, and Arkham Asylum Madness by Sam Keith. Madness is definitely the weakest of them all, but it's still got its moments. Everyone say hi to Haley as she walks through the background over and over again. It's definitely got its moments, though. But these two Alan Grant stories are really great, and it's so cool that this got collected. I mean, it's a 100-page book, so it's, for all intents and purposes, it's a trade with, 2 ads in it, so whatever. 1 ad, 2, 3. It's not even, ads. They're just notifications for DC events, like Flashpoint and Brightest Day. 3 ads? Is that seriously it in the whole book? That's not bad, really. If I got trades cheap like this, and all I had to put up with was 3 ads, I'd take it, man. Shit. You kidding me? 4 ads. Just in between the stories, mostly. There's, a couple at the very beginning that interrupted the Denny O'Neil story, but not in a truly bothersome way. 4, 5, 6 ads in the back, 2 in the back. That's nothing. I'd take that. So anyway, the final story is not very good. It's not that it's not good. It's a fun idea. It's just nowhere near on the caliber. It's Denny O'Neil and Denny O'Neil to open it up. What a name. And then you got Alan Grant just bringing his A game. He truly, truly has a great voice for Arkham. And then you got this, and it's a fun little idea that seems like it's part of a larger crossover. And the problem is all you get is this section. You don't get the larger crossover, so the story has no resolution. And on its own, the story's just, okay, that's a fun, neat idea. So, apparently, there's this guy walking around with this briefcase and cell phone, and he's some kind of mysterious entity, and wherever he goes, there's a giant disaster that happens. But the only other thread is that he is nearly stopped every time by a team that has called themselves the JLA, Justice League of something. In the Justice League of Adventure, the Justice League of Atlantis, the Justice League of Amazons, they've all nearly stopped this guy, but none of them have succeeded. So the story opens with Batman breaking into the Slab, which replaced Arkham for a little while as the holding place of the Joker and other supervillains. It starts by Batman breaking into the Slab and breaking Joker out, so that, along with some other characters, it seems, Catwoman, Poison Ivy, Riddler, Scarface, breaking them all out so that he can form the Justice League of Arkham in order to take down this guy. And so he has to lead this no good team of unagreeable bastards into battle. One thing I thought was really funny in this is, like, Batman explains what everyone's gonna have to do, and Joker's like, Joker and Riddler are there, and Joker's like, sure, but only if I get the Riddler as my sidekick. What's the point of being a good guy if I don't get someone to kick around? Riddler. You know what your problem is, Joker? You're just not funny anymore. He dives across the table and starts beating him up, and they start fighting. So what's the difference between a Riddler and a doo-doo? Don't know, don't worry. 5 more seconds and there won't be any difference at all. And then they fight, and Batman has to break him up. And Riddler's like, okay, I'm in. For 2 cents, I'd knock your block off, Joker. Here, have a quarter. I'd hate to sell myself short. That's fun. That's fun. So anyway, these, the Justice League of Arkham work together to, like, break into a facility that Batman has a lead on. And they briefly stop the man with the silver briefcase. But then the Joker gets away and tries to gas all of Gotham. And Batman has to go stop him. The man with the briefcase gets away. And it turns out that this too was a failure. But it's continued in Justice League of Aliens #1. So I guess this was Justice League of Arkham #1. Must have been some big crossover at the time. I'm sorry, but that's not something for a reprint in the slightest. That the Justice League of A would have been fine for a collection of the entire crossover event, but everything else in this stands on its own, and that does not, and it is just awkward. You can also tell it was done a lot later, just looking at the art in it. When you compare, like, this stuff, the very clearly, like, 90s stuff, and you got the Denny O'Neil, like, opening, that's very 80s looking, or possibly early 90s. Does it say the original date? No. And then you get this art, and it's just, whoo, that is drastic. That is very early 2000s. That, and I don't really care for the artist. Look at Nightwing's face. That's a face. Ow. That hurt my jaw doing that. So yeah, I don't really care for the art in this one either. So this last story is just so not necessary. I guess they had to do it to get it up to 100 pages. I would still say it's worth it for the first 3 stories. The first 3 stories are brilliant, great short stories about Arkham. I'm trying to think if there's another story that they could have put in here instead of that one that I would have really liked to see, and I think would make this a perfect trade. I think it is in the same Secret Origins book that has the other Alan Grant story. There's a really cool short story where Kyle Rayner, when he was Green Lantern, there's a story about him taking Joker back to Arkham after a thing. He, like, caught Joker out on the run or something and took Joker back to Arkham. And as he's walking Joker past the cells, everybody's, like, saying stuff to Green Lantern, and Joker's saying stuff to Green Lantern. And then he throws Joker in the cell and closes the door behind him. And just at the last second, Joker, like, reaches through the bars and out at Kyle, and it scares Kyle. It's like, hey, don't go away. It's just like, that's a really cool thing. Like, Arkham Asylum, the Joker, Arkham put fear into the man without fear kind of moment. That's really cool. So I like that story a lot, and that would have been a much better fit for this. But what can you do? Still pretty good. This cost $8 when it originally came out. I'm sure it's not that hard to find, or you can hunt down the exact name of the stories. Cityscape, Tales of Madness, Scream If You Love Me, was that it? The Tales of Madness is definitely the longest. That must have been like a one-shot or something. Scream If You Love Me, and then the Justice League of Arkham #1. Yeah, I would recommend like all of those stories or just this trade. It does a pretty good job of collecting everything. Alright, that'll do it for this episode of Trade Talk. Everyone, thank you very much for watching. See you next time. And everyone that stayed through comic reviews, thank you as well for sticking around. Man. Red Leader's in the comments just saying stuff. Red Leader, thank you for sticking around. Anyway. Oh, everybody's here. Damn. Okay. Well, I don't know. Do you guys have any questions you want me to answer or do anything briefly? No? So, I'm never sure about the delay. I think I'm just going to end it. Everyone, thanks very much for watching. Until next time. Bye.